These days, we have disposable tribes. Modern groups are disposable tribes. In the old days, we grew up in a village, we lived in the village, we died in the village. Everything we knew was based on the same familiar symbols that we saw all around us. And a storyteller could come up at a campfire or a ceremony and tell a story pertinent to that village, and everybody could tune into it. But these days, our groups come and go. We join a chat room on the World Wide Web. We watch a television series. We read a particular newspaper. We go to a particular class. Each of us may belong to any number of disposable tribes. And each disposable tribe has its own buzzwords, its own outlook, its own expectations, its own stereotypical story forms that it would favor based on the personality of the group as if it were an individual. So we have to consider what group we're writing for, and the fact that that group, that audience, may not be, this is who they are, this is how they always are. If somebody is a particular religion, if somebody is a particular political view, all the people that are of a particular religion may not be of the same political outlook. And as a result, if you're expecting to be dealing with a homogeneous group, that went out with transportation. The minute we could move from village to village, that's the minute that we became members of disposable tribes. So keep in mind what other things your audience is bringing to the process beyond their definition as an audience by sharing some common interest. You have to look at not only what people are, but also what they are not. So if you say, here is a group, and this is what they share in common as an audience, what do they not share in common as well? Those things can affect a story you tell here, even though theoretically, if none of that other material existed, their common interest would make them relate perfectly to your story. Once you bring in the other things, some may relate, some may not. Consider that. Is something symbolic or is it nonsense? Well, it depends on what you're saying and who it is you're saying it to. Will they get it or will they not? It's important to know what your audience will understand. Keep in mind, again, buzzwords, familiar bits of action, anecdotal stories that they know by heart that you could call into play, mention sometimes a single word, and it brings with it a wealth of information. But you have to be sure that the group for which you're writing will get it. Otherwise, your symbols are nonsense and either leave a hole in your story or at least put a skip in its beat. Cultural specificity. Got to get them fixed. Cultural specificity. Cultural specificity. Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story. Same basic structure, different times, different cultures. Updated for our times. Romeo and Juliet we can still appreciate, but we don't appreciate it and can't appreciate it the way in which it was written. We can only appreciate the immediacy of the feelings by having it translated into something like West Side Story or the modern incarnations of Romeo and Juliet that set it in modern times and adjust the language accordingly. However, a lot of the beauty of Romeo and Juliet, as well as all of Shakespeare's plays, is in the way he told the story. So the moment we update something, we keep the classic structure of that particular story form, we keep some of the symbolism, but at the same time we're losing a lot of the symbolism as well, making it more our own, more immediate, more pertinent to us, but losing some of the charm of the original. Sometimes you need to do that, though, because from culture to culture or time to time, things change in such a way that you just can't say this from here. You know, you can't say that from here. As the old saying goes, you can't get there from here. Well, you can't say that from here. In this language, you may be able to say things that you just can't say in another language. And so certain levels of nuance will be lost in your storytelling, no matter how good the translation, either through time or from culture to culture.